Hello, hello, hello. Hello, guys. I'm going to try to finish up the first draft, anyways, of the combat scene today. I wanted to finish yesterday, but I just ran out of time. Couple updates took longer than expected. So the parts that I still had left that I wanted to do before I can cross off, let me open that real quick. Look at our task list here. So when I first started this project, I built out a lot of little short-term goals on a task list just to kind of keep track. It's very zoomed in for some reason. Let's zoom out a little bit. And we have been working on this combat scene task for, I think, the last 3 sessions, maybe even 4 sessions now. There are a lot of pieces just to get all the systems built out, so I expected this one to take longer, but my hope is to finish this and actually this next one up too. We've actually already mostly finished this. I want to create like a little graphic when a player either wins or loses combat that pops up when combat's over, just kind of like a end combat screen where they can see the summary of combat and then click something to go to the next combat or the next part of the game eventually. But right now it'll just be a way to go to the next combat. So the pieces I'm still missing out of this is, let me open up let me start the server. I will mention late yesterday when I wasn't streaming, I went ahead and did a couple tasks we mentioned yesterday. So we talked about doing a little bit of refactor work to clean up the combat unit object and just the parent-child relationship between hero and monster. I had a lot of duplicated code between these two. So I went ahead and refactored. I turned the combat unit into an abstract class like I had mentioned instead of an interface so that I could include all the common code in here. So a lot of that code ended up being in the common code. There's even a couple more methods in the other ones I might even be able to clean up and add here as well. But all of this is now common code in the common one. So when you switch over to the hero or the monster unit, you'll notice they're a lot shorter than they used to be. We still need to build the data model objects separately because they each have these separate builders related to their specific items. So heroes have a specific hero builder, and monsters will have the same thing for the monster builder. But other than that, a lot of these were different. This is the one, I think eventually I can move this choose target into the parent class as well. But right now I didn't have time to do it, but I think I just need to figure out how to loop through these and look for the right units within the full list. So I was doing an instance of and picking the separate units, and that's why right now they're still separate, because one of these looks for instances of hero units for the monsters to attack, and then the hero choose target looks for instances of monsters to attack. So I think if I just change that code around just a little bit, I can actually do this based on uh, the unit that's coming in and sending the target. So maybe it's a situation where I say the source unit, and then I look at it first, and if it's a hero, then it does one section. If it's a monster, it does another section. Something like that. So that's cleaned up. What else did I clean up? I feel like I did something else. I think that's the main thing I did yesterday. So anyways, I don't have a lot of time today. The grandkids are going to do a little bit of trick-or-treating later, so I'm going to try to do a couple hours maybe a little bit longer to try and knock out. The big issue is we wanted to get sprites set up for the enemies. Right now, the enemies don't have any sprites. They still have that little text box setup that we were doing just for the testing phase. I'd like to get some kind of sprites in there so it looks more like a game and less like a UI layout with buttons and stuff. So let's push play and you'll be able to see how it's set up so far and the various things that are working so far. And then we'll try to integrate some type of graphics. They might not be good yet. Like I said, most of these are AI generated just as placeholders. I don't really want to use AI generated stuff in the final product, but for now, while I'm developing, I think it's a good way to get something there to kind of give you an idea how it will look. So when the game loads right now, it'll load into the previous state that the game was in when I stopped. So when I stopped last time, it was at the end of this combat. So what I'm going to have to do until I completely fix this is I have to go into the database here and just update this just for now until I build out the build this into the system where it resets combat on its own through the UI. I'm almost there, I just haven't quite got that step. So that's another one I'd like to get done today. So once we reset all this, I should be able to now, let me stop and restart. It's probably still going to show that initial state from the last combat. It won't normally do that once I have this built out correctly with the combat generating, but it's still saving the previous state from the database. But as soon as I push play, most of this is going to reset. You see all the monsters' HP went to full. The player HPs are actually going to full, but I need to trigger an update where it updates their health bar better. That will actually be fixed too when I integrate the reset better. But you can see they go back and forth. As their timers fill up, they perform attacks and they pick enemies based on logic of attacking all the front enemies first, and then they're able to attack the back enemy. You can see there's animations, at least for the unit side. It triggers attacks, it triggers hits, and if they die, it triggers that. When they do die, they quit attacking. Same with the monsters. So these three monsters are no longer attacking. And that's it. So right when it finishes combat, so I have this, all I have right now is a debug log showing that it knows combat has completed. I want to pop up some kind of overlay screen over the top here that shows just the basic summary of the combat, and then a button at the bottom that'll probably just say generate new combat for now for the testing part of the game. Eventually it'll say return to dungeon and you'll continue exploring the dungeon that you're in. So let's figure out how I can get some graphics integrated over here for the monsters instead of these text boxes. Let me stop that from running. And I did do a little bit of testing. It's been a few days, so I'm already a little rusty on what I was doing. But I kind of figured out how to pull sprite sheets in. I created a small script that I can use to kind of group animations into an array. So I can have like an array of frames and I drop those in. So one of the animations might say attack, and I drop like 8 or 10 frames in there that it loops through when you tell it to run the attack animation. And then I had like an idle animation, a hit animation, and a die animation. So I'm working with those four is what I'm trying to do. So let me find that script from my test project and we'll kind of pull it over here and then just start working on adjusting it. And right now I realize I don't have a element in the database anywhere that kind of retains what this would be like. I'm going to have to somehow tell it which resource because these aren't, the way I have it stored is through the database. I don't have scriptable objects or anything yet for any of this. And maybe eventually that'll be how the base monster objects work. I haven't decided that yet. I like everything being in the database. And but if we look at the database, we're gonna need to create like a file path or a file name or something field to store the location of this animation files that I'm getting ready to set up. So does it make sense to put it in this? At least for now, I don't have. Eventually, I'm going to have like a base monster table, and that's like the monsters that the game can pick from. And then there will be a generated monster table, which is like the table I have now, where it will actually generate unique monsters. There can be multiples of the same monster type in here, but these are the ones that are actually in the dungeon and that can be found, and that might have random modifiers on them. So the base monster table will show like one of each thing and what their base stats are. And then the generated monster will be randomly generated monsters based on those base monsters, and then some random modifiers added on to make them all unique in some way. So for now, I'll probably drop the pathing to the file in this table, but eventually we'll do a small refactor where we separate this out into two separate tables, one for the base monster and one for the generated monster, and then we'll add the field in the proper places. So something like a sprite should be in that base monster table. So let's add another field here, and we'll just call it what should this be? So right now, let's just grab the test data I have to kind of think through this. So projects, I put this in my test project. And let's see if I can find my sprite sheet. See my sprite sheet at all. Maybe that's not the right folder. I'm just looking here trying to find, okay, here's my class. Let's open that up real quick. So this is the class I was working with. So I created different lists of sprite or arrays of sprites for each animation. And then when you look at these in the editor, you can just drop them into these locations. Now, if I do this through the database, I'm going to have to change this a little bit and somehow reference a location to these animations. And I'm not entirely sure how I want to do that just yet. Let's see. But we have the update kind of loops through and decides based on which animation it's in, what it needs to do. And then I set up a couple test things here where it just ran the animations that I wanted it to run. And in the play, or in the update, I mean, if it was certain animations, I told it to only loop or not loop at all, just go through the animation once and then return to the idle animation is what this means. So if it was on attack or a hit animation, then after it was done running through that list of frames, it returns to the idle animation. And that's kind of like the default. The idle animation will just keep looping. And then the die animation will stop after it's done running. So it will break the animation there and it will stop. So this is kind of all coded out and works, but I haven't linked it to my data storage setup with the database. And I haven't, in all honesty, like I said, I don't know exactly how to do that. I might have to do a little bit of research on how we can get that to work. I'm going to copy this and create a new a script in our project that will reference this. So let's put that in the combat scripts. We'll just create it at the root here and we'll call it the same thing. Yeah, it was a mono behavior. And it's just called UI animated image, I think is what I called it. And then so come on, quit compiling. So let's paste that code in that I just copied. And I guess the way I did it, I did not grab the imports. Let's grab those imports as well. Come on. What is it doing? Unity Engine UI are the only two. Oh, what do I got going on here? I don't know what I did here. Let's get rid of that. I already have that line item. All right. Now all the errors are gone. Okay. So if I go back into the editor, and let's just go to the, let's just manually set one up for now. So if we go into the monster component, instead of what I have, what if I drop in so an image and we make it the same size. Okay. And let's just call this animated sprite. And then down here, we're going to add our new component called UI animated image. And you can see all the different listings here. And then I need to find my sprite sheet, at least one of my examples. It doesn't really matter which one, I guess, just to help prove out the system here. I didn't delete all of those, did I? I know I deleted a couple of them, but I'm not seeing any of them. It's a little disappointing if I deleted them all. I'm gonna check in the recycle bin. Let me look. I'm gonna restore one I just found. Let's see where it shows up. Is it in this folder? Let's see what this is. No, that's that character. I don't want that character. Let's restore this one. Where'd it put that one? So this was one I definitely AI generated. I told it to create 4 different animations, one for attack, one for idle, one for getting hit, and one for dying. And I think this is one of them that didn't work, and that's probably why I deleted it. Where are the other ones that were fine? Because I'm not seeing them in my recycle bin either. They gotta still be in this project somewhere. Let me open this other project up. Maybe I still have them saved in there that way. We'll just open another Unity instance and open up. This is the test project or project I've been using for testing. I don't know why they're not in this folder. They should be in the root assets folder because I was just testing there. I thought. Whew. Sorry. Guess I'm more tired than I realize. Alright, so I had a combat scene that I was testing, which is similar to what we're already having our new project, but I had another one. Let's see. Scenes, maybe? No. Hero editor. This one? I think I threw some test stuff in here, yeah. So these little boxes over here should be animated sprites when I push play. Let's see if there's still references to them or if I deleted them. I guess we'll know real quick when I push play if something shows up. If it doesn't, then that means I deleted the files. Oh no. That's disappointing. I don't know why I would have done that. But you can see it shows all the sprites that I had were missing. Okay. I mean, I'm not even seeing them in my recycle bin. I don't know what that means. Maybe they're all the way gone and I might just have to, we might just have to let's just generate one. See if we can't get ChatGPT to generate something usable. It doesn't have to be good. Let me open another browser. I do have a subscription, just the $20 subscription. So it allows me to create multiple stuff like this and it doesn't stop like the normal free version does. It'll be like, oh, you gotta wait. I don't know how long it makes you wait, but so we're gonna say, can you create a what's it called? Sprite sheet for my game for a wolf. The game is a fantasy RPG setting. Please make sure the background is either transparent or a solid color. Make each frame 128 by 128 with 4 rows. Each row should be for a different animation. One row will be idle. One row will be attack. One row will be getting hit. And one row will be a dying animation. Trying to think what else I kind of said last time to make sure it did a clean job here, but I mean, I've had a hard time getting it to do this exact based on what I'm saying. Maybe I should say how many frames. Try to make each animation 8 frames long. Can you create a sprite sheet for my game for a wolf? The game is a fantasy RPG setting. Let's say a gray wolf. Please make sure the background is either transparent or a solid color. Make each frame. Let's start with that. I don't think that's going to be enough. I'm probably going to have to define a few more things, but we'll see what happens. And I mean, I feel like that's enough data to at least put it in 4 rows, but it never does. Like this is going to be like 6 by 6 or 7 by 7. It always is. We'll be lucky if we have all 4 animations. So we'll see. Let's see what it does. The nice thing with Unity, if it at least spreads them out in 128 by 128 squares on here, is in Unity we can easily break that out then to use in our app. But let's see what it comes up with. All right, so it's going to use a brown background. I should have said transparent background. Now look, there's only 4, which maybe it decided when I said 4 rows I meant 4 columns, but not really. It did a pretty good job at matching like my art style with this one. This kind of looks similar to the oh, now look, it throws some text in there, which is absolutely not what I want. And none of these look like idle. Maybe 1 frame right here could be considered idle. Getting hit, dying, idle. We don't, I guess this is attack, but we didn't actually get text to tell us what was attack. All right, let's try to clean up our prompt and maybe get it to do a better job, because I have gotten this to work. I can probably even find it, can't I, in one of these older ones. Sprite sheet. Let's go down here and see what I had done in the past, because yeah, here's where I was trying to get it to help me figure out how to do the animations, so that helped me kind of build that out. I did that one. Here's some wolves. That's a longer one where it has a lot of different frames, and it's transparent, which helps. Can we make that work? Let's see. This top could be the attack. I don't know. None of this looks good. it's almost like it's transforming into a ball of fur down here when it's dying. I don't know what happened there. Okay. What did I type as a prompt? Because that was pretty close. 4 rows by 16 columns, which it keeps turning. I don't know. There's 6 columns, but a whole lot more rows. 64 frames. No labels, no borders, no gutters, no text. So I think that helped me get away with that issue where it wasn't keeping them the same size across the whole image. Let's copy this to my other, let's go back to our other chat. Oh, did I save it? It always saves them, doesn't it? Well, shoot, where did it go? I guess I'll just click new chat. Maybe I didn't do something right. All right. 2D fantasy RPG wolf sprite. We'll say 4 rows by 8 columns. 32 frames. Row 1, row 2. Oh, I tried to push enter and it sent it. We'll see if this does any good. I mean, it should do at least as good as it did before, right? I think you could use ChatGPT for maybe a base. It might be better off to create like some base sprites, but then you really need to know at least some basic sprite editing to make animations look good, because at least from what I've seen, now there are other options out there. I tried one called, what is it, Lido.ai. That one's much more customized to creating graphics for games and sprite sheets, but that one costs money. Like every time you generate anything, it takes some of your whatever it is you end up buying. I think it's tokens. It takes your tokens away every time you run one, and it doesn't do a very good job. See, now this is already messing up. These aren't spaced correctly. I don't understand why it can't at least understand some of the basics here. Like the 4 rows by 8 columns, I feel like that's a very logical statement. I mean, it's not like, I mean, it's doing a good job drawing the individual wolf frames, but it's not placing them in a way that we could use these in our game. And I don't even know what to do to get it to fix some of these things. Sometimes I just get lucky and it generates something I can use, and a lot of times this is what happens. So it looks like it was on the right track, and if it would like not show me, it looks like stuff was cut off. If I would have everything in this image, I think I'd be a happy camper, because it looks like almost everything's there. I mean, it's 5 rows long instead of 4, so I don't know where that 5th row is going, but even if I download it, did I download it? I mean, you can see that's all that's in the image. It didn't, it's not like it's a bigger image and it's just not showing it all. So that's a little aggravating. I'd like to get one that I could at least use, even if it doesn't look right. So I need one where there's not, I don't even know what to say though. I already said no borders, no gutters. Maybe I should say, can you please try again? This is close to what I want, but the individual frames need to each be exactly 128 by 128 pixels. Maybe I should say 128 pixels high by 128 pixels wide for a 4-row, 8-column sprite sheet. The final size of the full image should be 512 by 1024 pixels. And I guess I should call out the sizes on here too. Pixels high by 1024 pixels wide. Do you think that's enough to get this to get smarter? Probably not. I don't want to spend too much time with ChatGPT either. I'm just trying to get some placeholder graphics to test some stuff. If I can't get something fairly quickly here, we might just have to use that other one we just saw, even though the graphics themselves didn't make sense. Maybe I can still just put some in there to at least test stuff out. I'll have to do a little more research on the graphics side because I'm not an artist, but I need to figure out how to get some decent graphics to use for the game. I don't want anything AAA level, of course. This is a 2D pixelish art game. Not quite like low level pixels. I guess I'm doing a little more detailed pixels, but still. I like the art style that um, add-on that I'm using uses. So it's like layering sprites on top of each other to create that effect. So if I go to the I can go to this test scene. Yeah, like this guy. I like that. And when you look at how they build it, each one of these little pieces is its own little sprite. And then they just have like a layered system that layers them on top and sorts them correctly where they show up correctly. So the sword is its own sprite, the boots, I think, the shield, the arms, the head. They're all like individual sprites layered to make this happen. And that way you can also customize it, of course. But I like that technique and strategy to creating graphics. Because then, I mean, then we can move away from sprite sheets altogether and use animated Unity animation stuff. But I'm a far away from being able to figure out how to create art like that. Now, there's probably some other I need to look on the asset store, and if there's some reasonably priced things, I'm not against buying some art uh, to use as placeholders and stuff. And then eventually I'll figure out how to either hire someone to make these more in my own style, or maybe I'll learn enough that I can do some basic edits to make them more unique and original to my game. Not there yet. That's definitely what I would consider a end game polish step. Let's see what ChatGPT did. It did an awful job. It put borders in. It didn't make sure that they fit. The image itself is not the right size. I guess we could use, what I can do is I can take what's in here and then I can probably break out just these individual middle ones. Just to test right now because I don't feel like screwing with the AI generation stuff anymore right now. see, go to downloads. We'll take this one right here that generated, and let's open it in Photoshop. We're going to try, I don't know if we're going to be successful, but we're going to try to slice this into the right size for 4, what is it? 1, 2, 3, it looked like 5 by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 4. The bottom one looks like it's cut off too. But let's just grab, try that again. See, now these are actually bigger than, these are like more like 256 by 256 according to the size here. So it didn't do that right either. Just wanted to call that out. This one's overlapping. AI is still not great. So let's just grab this. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be kind of ugly. Let's see. Can I think I can do it this way. Paste that in. That's a little closer to what we're trying to do. It's not perfect by any means because the tails are overlapping, but we're going to use this for now just as a test bed. So let's save this as, we need to go into our project. Assets, graphics, and we're going to call this for now just Wolf. Oh, this is the PSD file anyways. Wolf test sprite sheet. Okay, and then we need to actually save this as a PNG. Why does it keep defaulting to these other folders that are not tied to this at all? It was just in my other folder. Don't send me all the way back out again. All right. Save that. Let's go ahead and close that. We don't want to do any real editing today. That's not what I'm doing. Just trying to get images instead of boxes. So over here, what we wanted to do was figure out how to drop that new sprite sheet on here and get it to work. So we need to put we have the animated sprites. Now what we need to do is find that image that we just imported. It shows us both of them. I didn't know it could read PSD files in Unity. Okay, and from here, what we need to do is click Open Sprite Editor. I need to make sure it says Sprite, 2D, and UI first of all, and it just defaulted to that on its own. And then this is what we want. We want to go into Sprite Editor. And from here, we're going to try to slice this so they look fairly in the right spots. So we're going to say grid by cell size, I think is the right way to do this. And we'll say 256 by 256. And then we might have to offset these a little bit, but I'm wondering if we can make this work. Let's make this bigger. See how close those are? But it doesn't look like it did a good job at making those exact. Let's try 250. That might be close enough. 250 by 250. Yeah, but we also need some padding It looks like maybe about, because there's those little gray spots. So what about 10? I need it for the Y as well. 10. Yeah, it's really not lining up yet. So I'm not really sure what it decided to do here. Let's try to. It needs padding in the first row too. Or is that the offset? 10 offset. Okay, we're getting closer. I don't know how. I don't think we're going to get this exact. And then we go down to 240. That's pretty close. What about 235? Now at least we got that last frame. We weren't getting the last frame until I did that. So let's do 235. It looks like the wolf is pretty much in all of these frames except their nose and their tails are getting cut off. I need to fix this bottom one though, so let's see. For the Y, instead of 250, we'll try 240. There we go. Now it's got the bottom frame as well. It doesn't look good because it's not. I mean, I guess I could maybe offset the Y10 as well and maybe it'll still work. What about 20 offset? That actually looks really close, doesn't it? As close as I'm going to get with this ChatGPT generated image. But now we have 4 rows of 5 frames. Although none of it looks... I mean, this first one maybe I'll use as the attack, even though honestly that looks awful. And then maybe this third row will be idle. This one maybe will be hit. And this one will be die, of course, because that's where it's... whatever it's doing there. So we're going to say slice to make it generate these. And when you do this, let's go back out of the sprite editor. Yes, I want to save those changes, please. So now I can click this little arrow and I can see all of the sprites I just generated. And if you remember right, every 5 is kind of like a different animation, or at least that's how I'm setting it up. It didn't really do a good job, like I said, but... So let's go back to our test object here and click on animated sprite. And let's just drop these in just for testing. So we need 0 through 4. Why isn't it? I need to lock this. Let's see, where's that? There we go. I need that to quit clicking off of there. The top 4 I think I decided were going to be used for attack. The next 4 I was going to use for the hit animation. Or next 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll drop those into the hit animation. And then this next 5 will be idle. And the last 5 will be the death animation. And the only other thing I don't like about this that I just realized was these are facing the wrong way. Is there a quick way to get these reversed? I don't want to have to redo all those steps though. I was going to say I could just flip it in Photoshop. But that's going to screw up the placement of everything, isn't it? I don't think it's smart enough though. I can do it in the code probably somehow too. I can flip it. I bet I can flip it pretty easily through code. Let's ask let's ask ChatGPT that. Maybe it'll be better at doing that. How can I flip my sprite sheet images horizontally in Unity 3D through code or the editor? I know I've done this before. I definitely don't remember how I did it though. Maybe it'll just kind of remind me here when it gives us the answer. The local scale to -1 on the X is what it looked like it was saying. Select the game object. In the sprite renderer component, check flip X. Let's look at that. Of course, I don't have a sprite renderer component because I have it all built into my my script right now. There's an image. If I flip the image, I don't see a way to flip the image though. That's not a sprite renderer. What other options did it show? Put the image on a child object and set the child's rect transform scale x equals -1. We can try that. That might be pretty easy to do. And it won't make it look too bad in this portion. So it's saying to image flip. We'll just call it image flip. And it's saying to put this under it, I think. And then on this one, it says to make the scale -1. Now, I don't know if I have to size it the same either. So maybe I'll just do that. Oh, if I size that, it's messing with the other one. Because I made it a child object. I'm going to take that off and then size it so it quits messing with the sizing. And then I'm going to add it back in. Okay, that might work. And then, oh, I didn't mean to click scene, did I? Because this is a prefab we were working with. Where did I put that prefab now? It's in the combat. So I think we're going to have to move this higher so we can actually see it. I don't think we need the background anymore. I'm going to get rid of the background. Image flip. Animated sprite. I mean, we're still going to clean the text portions of this up as well once we figure this out. But is that enough to at least get like a wolf sprite? Now it's going to show up on every monster regardless of what the monster is right now. But that's okay. I just want to test if this is a start to getting this to show the image. I'm probably missing something here, I'm sure. But let's save the scene and push play and see what happens. My server should still be running. I might have to reset combat. I don't think I reset it. All right, so it is working and it is facing the right way, so we fixed that. I mean, the sprites look absolutely awful, but we knew that as well. We knew that was going to be an issue. But that'll work for now for this testing phase. So let's remove this white background. Is that coming from my image? And do I just need to... if that's coming from my image or something else. I have an image flip. It's probably this one. Let me take this back off of there again and change the image flip to 0 opacity and then put it back on. Maybe. Is that enough to get it where it doesn't show that white background? Either that or it might be part of my image and I might have to figure out how to remove it. Yeah, it didn't get rid of it. I really don't like that. I don't want it to show. I want it to be transparent. And I thought I had it set that way. I mean, on ChatGPT, it was that way, wasn't it? Oh, it wasn't. It doesn't show transparency. Well, this one did. This one did not. My bad. Might just have to live with that for now until I get better graphics. We're just wanting to test that we can set this up in a way that it's triggering the different animations. That's really all we're trying to do here. So we don't care what it looks like. I wish it looked better. It's not going to look better today though. Let's just get this where when they're attacking, so when I push play and when these guys attack, I want it to show, and they're not going to attack because I need to reset combat. That's right, we're not going to do this right now either. I haven't decided how I want to do that yet, how to actually pull these graphics in correctly. Let's reset combat manually since we don't have this set up in the code anywhere yet. All right, now let's test this again. Before we test this, maybe we can go ahead and code those pieces in there. I don't think it's going to be that hard. So the sprites are going to have this UI animated image attached to them. We're going to have to reference this. And then we just need to call the right, and I said click, but let's rename these attack anim. Let's say attack anim for animation. Hit anim. Die anim. And there should be an idle one, but maybe that one was just the default and it worked that way. Yeah, it was. I don't think we have to call it specifically the way this is set up. Okay, so we have the different things we can call from this script. So we just need to reference this script in our monster component object. So let's see if we can figure that out. So in here, we have a script called monster component controller. Okay. And we are... Is this the same level that the other script's on? Let's double check that. No. The other script is on this image down here. So we need to make a reference to this game object in the monster component controller so that we can put that in. And then we have a reference to it and we can make calls to that script when those things happen. So let's do that. Let's create a new field called serialize field private game object. Actually, we don't need the game object. We need the UI animated image object. And we should be able to drop the game object that has that on there and get it to work. So let's say monster animator is what we can call this. All right, let's see. I think that's good. So then let's go back into the editor here. Let it compile real quick. When I say real quick, I mean take its time. And then we have this new option in here to put that. Let's just grab it and drag it, and it should allow us to put it there. All right. Now, well, there's our reference. So now we can check down here where we're doing different things. So right now we have an attack already. We can compare this to, which one is it? Hero component, because this one's already built out. It's already working on the different animations. So we can use that kind of as a comparison tool. So we have an attack, a die, and a hit on the hero. So let's do the same thing here. And they are public, and we might have to do the same thing here because we need to reference these through other code. Public void, I think anyways. Some of these access levels we can refactor and fix them when they're not necessary. So for die, we're going to say, for attack, we're going to say monster animator dot attack anim. And for die, we're going to say monster animator dot die anim. And then for that last one, public void hit combat event target event. So that's where I was also, the reason I passed that event in, because I need to know how much to adjust the values. Or no, I was just using it for the debug log, really. I mean, it's still good to pass it in so you have the extra details. I might not use them. Right now, we don't have to use them. Really, all I can have to do here is animator dot hit anim. All right, so there's my defined functions. Now they're not all getting called yet. Right now we have a case attack on the unit events. And what did we do over here? Did we just build out the other ones, or how did we tell this? Just kind of looking to see how we did on the heroes. We can probably do it similarly. We still only have attack over here. That's weird. I know those other animations are triggering. Where did I make the logic that made that work? Where is die is being called from hit, and I didn't put that over here, so I guess I'm still going to need that. I need to say if monster object dot common dot current HP equals 0, then run the die method. So that's what triggers die. What triggers hit? I must have it in the It must be in like the party panel controller. That's the one that's above it. Update party panel. Where did I do the do events? I like a do events. Do unit events. Do unit events. Do unit events. Do unit events. That's this one. Attack. We're setting all the values to this controller. Where is this being used? Where's it at? Target events. Oh, okay. I see what I did. So if it's a target, that's what I was looking at wrong. I have the source and I have the target in the combat event. So this is saying it is a target. So if it's the target of a combat event, then that's getting hit. If it's the source or the unit event, the main guy, then it does the attack side. So that's what that was. So really, I just need to copy all of this into the monster code. Do I already have a do unit events in here? Maybe I don't yet. Nope, that's not the right class. I do already have it. So, I don't know if we're passing the right data yet. This is a little in the wrong spot. And it says I have one too many of these. I think. Attack can be made private. And I agree with you probably. But for now, I'm not worried about that. So let's check the... So just like the party panel controller, let's drop that on this side. And the monster, or what is it called? Yeah, the enemy panel controller. We should do the same thing when we're creating the events. So let's find the update component. We're adding unit events. We also need to add the target events. And where do we generate those at? Because we're passing them here. Let's go up a little farther. So up here we created an additional object like this. And that's got to go in another row here. Get the target events. Just need to reference the correct object, which is the monster. And I think this is the exact same thing down here. It just needs to be for the front and the back row. So put monster. Okay. And then we need to pass that additional object into our update monster component. So a list combat event, target events. Okay. And up here, we need to make sure we're passing it in both of these locations. And then down here, we need to set it. So monster, component controller, target events are set. So we've set them, they're available to grab. So now in the monster component controller, we should have access to these target events. And this should, in theory, work. Let's test this out. Let's see if we're getting different animations for this stuff. Let's go back to the scene. Let's save the scene. And let's reset the database again. Oh, it's already reset. Okay, let's push play. See what happens. Mainly just watching for different animations because they're not going to look right yet. Unfortunately. So that's the idle animation for both sides. Now if I push play, once the white bar gets full, we should see a different animation. It might not look like an attack animation, but that's what we're going for here. So as they fill up. All right, I am seeing a different animation. I can't tell if it's, oh, the die worked. See how it stopped after he died? So they might be working and I just have really bad animations and you can't tell, but I think it's working. The attack animation just doesn't look different enough, but there is a different frame in there I'm seeing when they attack. There's not enough frames either. I mean, we only have 3 or 4 frames here and it's not a smooth animation at all. All right. So that one last attack, this guy's actually got 0 health, but it doesn't update the UI after that last attack. It cuts everything off, so that's a little cosmetic bug that I can fix at some point. But at this point, combat is over and it's successfully updating. Now I just need, the reason this looks awful still is I need to clean up the, we'll probably add an HP bar instead of this, and we'll probably take the MP off of here for now. Just to kind of mimic how I did over here. And then of course I need to figure out, I need to get some sprite sheets that are transparent, and that will clean up this white background. And then this will start looking a lot better as far as being able to see the enemies. And I'll probably take off these other things as well. I'll take off the level and the name, and I'll probably make these, maybe you can scroll your mouse over or click on these to pull up some kind of little unit card, and then that unit card will give you some more specs such as name, level, HP, MP, probably some of the base stats as well eventually. But I don't think we need all of this detail like this. We can even put the name, but if we put the name like for the heroes too, like maybe we can figure out a way to put it either right above their bodies or right below their bodies. We could put like name, level 1 fighter. Maybe that'll all fit on one line. It'll be kind of small, but at least then that data will be in there. We'll see what it looks like. That might be an option to have at least that much data. And the same for the enemies. It might say like wolf, and level. We'll say wolf level 1 or something. Level 1 wolf maybe. And then it'll have an HP bar and an MP bar. Same with the heroes. I'll have to add an MP bar for them. And get the transparency so we don't see all these blocky blocks. And then it will actually start looking like a combat scene. It won't be pretty yet. I could add a background to this pretty easy too, like a background image instead of just the screen. That would probably be pretty easy to do. Let's see. One more thing I probably got a little more time here, another half hour or so. So let's try to fix the, when combat's over, let's just create a quick little, figure out a way to do at least some basic stuff, like maybe that pop-up screen and a way to reset through the UI without having to go into the database each time and pushing. Like right now, I have to go in here and reset all these values to be able to run another test combat. So let's stop this from running. And let's go back into the Unity editor, or we're already there, aren't we? Let's create another panel, a new panel. We'll call this one Combat Summary. Let's make it like an overlay over this whole section here. Let's get rid of the transparency, or at least make it a lot thicker than it is. Yeah, let's just get rid of the transparency for now. Let's make it gray or purple or what here. Let's see what looks good. It doesn't matter for now. Maybe a brown, like a lightish brown, or we'll go with that for now. I don't want to do too much right now, but I mean, I do have some different UI sprites and stuff that we might use eventually to make this look a lot nicer than just boxy colored boxes and stuff. And then let's add a image, and this is just going to be at the top, it'll just say Combat Summary. We want that to be much bigger. Something like that. Let's make it the same size, and then when we center it, it should be centered. Let's center it both ways. We'll center it horizontally and vertically in that square. And then let's tell it to auto size, and the max size can be 100. Let's make it bold. I really wish I could figure out how I did shadows, because they're not that hard to do. Can I do it in here? Extra settings. Style sheet asset. It's not changing anything. Huh. I swear this used to work. It really wasn't that hard. How can I add a drop shadow to my Text Mesh Pro U GUI text object in Unity 3D? TMP underlay. Select your Text Mesh Pro GUI object. In the inspector, expand material. If If it's using a default material, click material preset so you don't edit the global default. With the material selected in the shader profiles, find underlay and enable it. Okay, that's definitely different than I used to go, but I guess they've just changed since they used to use a base text object. Now they use this text mesh pro stuff as the main text stuff in Unity. All right, find material and expand it. Okay. And then underlay, was it? I think it said underlay. Find underlay and enable it. Set color and alpha. Offset 0.5 negative 0.5. Softness and dilate. That's a lot of different settings I have to change. All right, so first of all, we need to offset it down. So it needs to be offset down 1, -1 on the y-axis. All right, that's working. Not as good as it used to look. But I'm sure there's more settings here, so what else can I do? The color I could maybe turn up. And maybe go more with what it actually said. I think it said 0.5 and -0.5 because that's a little too far down. That looks better. That looks much better. All right, that wasn't too hard now that we know how to do it. Turn on underlay, change the color alpha so that it's thicker probably, and 0.5 -0.5 seems to give a pretty good look. Okay, combat summary. And then let's just make let's just call this the title. Let's make another, we can actually just duplicate this one, right? Keep us from having to type quite as many settings. Let's call this one combat outcome. Combat outcome. And we can put this right here. Let's make it a different color. Let's make it green maybe. Maybe that doesn't look good. A brighter green doesn't look too bad. What about orange look good? Probably not because we're already on a brown background. Yeah, none of these colors look great the way I've done this, but that's okay. That'll work. We're not that picky. Let's turn off bold for this one. Oh, look, there was already a drop shadow option in the fonts. I didn't even know that. I mean, it's not really a drop shadow. That's a stroke. Well, there is a shadow under there, isn't there? We'll use this one just to make it slightly different. We'll make the max size of this 84. I want it to be slightly smaller than the other one. And then this should read player 1 or player lost. Okay. Now we're going to do this through code, but I'm just typing to see what it would kind of look like. And then we need another, we're going to need a button. Add a button to this. And let's change this button so it matches the look and style that we've done so far. So for the text, we should be able to do something similar here. We should be able to say auto size. And let's change the color because that looks awful. Let's make this, let's make the button itself a different color. Let's make it, I don't know, maybe a really dark brown. And then the text could maybe be a white. That doesn't look too bad. Doesn't look great, but it doesn't look too bad. And then the button will just say generate new combat. We can even make this bigger. Whoops, wrong spot. All right. Real gigantic button here. So that's what can pop up right now, just to show that we have the end combat, and then we want to trigger this ability to trigger a new combat. That way we can do testing a lot easier. We can just keep regenerating combats. So, player won or player lost. So let's go into wherever we called that console. What was it? Combat has completed. Wherever we've done this debug log is probably where we need to have it trigger the code that calls this, enables this. So we're going to set this combat summary to the combat manager, probably is where this is going to end up being. We're going to create a game object reference to it on the combat manager. And when combat's over, we'll enable this. And when it's enabled, the start function on this should run, and it should show data based on what happened. In theory, that's what we're going to do there. So let's go to the combat manager. Let's make a reference to that new, let's call it public game object. Combat summary. Okay. And when this starts, this should probably set active to false when we first start. And actually, we're going to have to do this in the start function. Otherwise, it might not be created yet. And then I'm looking for wherever we did the combat is one. Is that in this class? It might not be. We have an on combat completed. We created an event that we can trigger. So that's something else, a different way we could do this. Since we already created an event, we really don't have to do anything else in this class. We'll leave this as it is. Let's get rid of this reference. We're not going to need it. Well, let me think though. I mean, we still need a way to turn this on and off. Do we do that through this object? Or do we create a different object to manage it? Let's see what other objects we have currently. I mean, eventually, maybe it makes sense to have a separate one to manage the UI objects, and this is more of a logic and data part of it, maybe. Let's do that. I don't think we have any other UI objects on this combat manager, so maybe it makes sense to get rid of this here and use the same strategy we're on these other ones where we created events that they can listen to. So let's make a new, we need to make a script for this new summary, but we're going to have to place it because the object itself is going to be disabled, so the script won't be running. So what we'll have to do is place it on the Combat Manager object in the game scene. So let's look there. So see, we have a Combat Manager object. We'll just place this new script on this object, and then that new script will reference the combat summary that we just created. So let's go to here. We're going to create a new script. Call this combat summary controller. Sounds fine to me. And in here, we'll need a reference to that like we were doing before. So game object combat summary panel. Okay, it's going to have to be a serialized field or we won't be able to set that in the editor. And then we also need to bring in the event. We need to listen for that event. So it needs to say combat manager dot instance dot on combat completed, and have it generate a method. And then let's rename that method to on combat completed. Let's rename this to combat because I don't like OBJ. It does not define what it is at all. All right, on combat completed should take that combat summary panel, set active, true. And then we could even set the, we can set the values here in this class. We don't have to create another class for that. This should be fine. We can say serialize field, private text mesh pro u GUI. We'll call this combat outcome text. And then up here in the start, we also need to disable this panel. We don't want this to show active until combat's over. Okay, and then what else do we need to do? So when combat's completed, we activate that, and then we set that outcome to based on whatever the combat is. So we say if combat dot completed, well, we already know it's completed. If player 1, then the text should say combat outcome text dot text equals player has won, else player has lost. Okay. And then we need one more option here for public void generate combat click. So that's just the method we can use when they click the button that's on there. And when they do that, we need to do it'll be a combat manager thing. So we'll say combat manager method call that references server to reset combat. Okay, and then from our standpoint, what do we do to reset? We need to reset the UI. So all of the elements that are there will need to be deleted and then regenerated. So I'll say delete all units and recreate. Now we don't have a delete yet for this. So we're going to have to create like a delete method for both the monsters and the heroes. And then we can kind of just run through the same combat init calls, and I think that should clear everything up. And we'll also have to turn off the after this is all done, all of these things have been run, then we can say combat summary, or we don't even have to wait. This could be at the top because this isn't on the actual object. We're putting it on the combat manager. We want to set that summary panel back to false. Combat manager, combat method call to reference server to reset combat. So we can do that fairly easy. We're just going to have to create an additional RPC call. That shouldn't be too hard. And then delete all units and recreate. So let's do the combat manager call real quick and get that figured out. That should be a quick and easy one. So let's go into the server. This is our Java server. Making RPC calls back and forth between C# and Java to make this work. All of the game logic is on the server. Unity is mainly acting as a visual renderer of everything that's happening. And there'll be interactive buttons and stuff that can be clicked, but none of the game logic runs on the client. It all runs on the server. So this will be on the combat. And then our service calls, we're going to have to do one that says RPC reset combat. And I don't think we need to send anything unless it makes me. I guess we have to send something. Combat reset request returns a combat response. It could return the base objects back when it's done. I still don't know. I guess the combat reset should reference a player, because what if we don't, it won't know which combat. Or yeah, it can just go for the combat ID. So that's what this will be. It could just be the combat by ID request is what's passed in. That way we don't have to create another object. Because it's the same thing. We just want to send the ID in. That way the system knows which ID to reset. And then it just returns the same data that the normal get combat info would return. The only difference is this is resetting the data first before it returns that. Set combat. Okay. So let's generate. Let's stop the server. It's going to get mad at me. Let's generate that change so that the service has the knows that we need to create this method. And then this should be pretty easy. So we can piggyback off of what we already do to reset combat right now, but I'd like to set it up where when we click this, it resets everything rather than right now the way it's working is like the first frame of combat triggers that reset. So I'd like to reset it this way and then maybe clean up the combat itself where it's not doing the reset in the combat. We'll see if we can figure that out though. Don't have too much more time I can work on this today, but I feel like we have made it to a point where I wanted. I wanted to kind of just get those graphics at least in there and this end screen button. Now we haven't actually tested the end screen button yet, but we're getting awfully close where we can here. Okay. So now in the combat service, we should be able to, I don't know if it's going to give me the red squiggly. It might not be that smart. I don't think it is. But here in the override section, we are going to override. It'll be a public void. I already forgot what I called it. Reset combat. And we're passing a combat by ID request. And it's just a normal stream observer. Combat response. Response observer is fine. So resetting combat. And the first thing we want to do is get the combat back, just like it does up here in the get combat info. And we need to make sure this isn't null. If we try to if we get some kind of messed up system and it doesn't find the combat, we don't want it changing any data. But once it's gotten here, if it doesn't find any updates, then what we should do is go ahead and make changes to this object. So we have a combat DB. We want to set completed to false. Sorry, I was going to say 0, which is kind of true. And then we want to set the started to 0 or false. And we also want to set that last. The player 1 doesn't matter. There's another flag called player 1. It can be set to 1 or 0, but we can leave that to whatever it is. It won't come into play until the very end of combat anyway. So these are the two that we need for the reset scripts to work appropriately. So we need to save that back to the back to the database. So now we have that new data in there. Now, I think what we want to do is we probably just want to use, can I use what we have up here? I think I can. Will that work that way? It's returning the same kind of response. I don't know if it'll work that way though. Let's just copy this. I don't like to duplicate code, but in this case, I don't think I want to use a different method tied to the gRPC because it could mess stuff up. So what we're doing here is we're just going to create the combat object now based on this new data. And then we just send it back to the user. All right. That should reset combat. Now, once it's reset, do we also want to do the other pieces now? Since we're pushing reset combat, there's code in the, it's down in the loop though, I think is where I actually had it running. Remember where there's that combat init? What is that doing? Let's go see what that's doing and see if we can pull that into this section instead. I don't know if we can, but let's look and just see if it makes sense. Init combat. Combat getting initialized. So this is creating a list of units. Or it's getting the list of units from the combat object. It's initializing those units. I don't think we can do this though until at least the way I have this set up. I don't think we can do this stuff until the thread's running, or can we? This is mainly just running another update to the combat. Init combat. I don't think it'll hurt to try this. Let's try to run this in the method we just created to see if it does that part for me. I'd like when the UI displays to show everybody with full life and stuff and not show the previous combat like it's doing right now. And I think that might fix it. So let's just try that. If that somehow breaks it, then... So right now, right here, we have a combat object. So we should be able to run init combat. And I think that also returns a combat object, doesn't it? Yeah. So after it does that, it should get the new one back. And then we send that new one back. I can even do I don't think it's going to matter. But I could even do like a combat updated combat object and make sure that that's what's getting passed back. We have this issue where these are immutable objects, but I think when we're completely reassigning it like that, then it should be fine, but we'll just do it this way. It's a little more legible and readable this way, what's happening. So this might completely reset combat, including resetting the time elapsed and the hit points to full for all of the heroes and monsters. So I think that would work, resetting the combat. And then how do we reset the UI side? So we have this. We need to make this call. So we're also going to have to regenerate the proto file so that Unity3d sees that new method we just created. So let's do that. Let's do that update over here. So combat manager call that references server. So we need to say combat manager dot instance dot reset. No, it's not reset. It is client. I need the client. Let me go into the combat manager and see how I was doing this. I need to grab the client, combat client, but it's private. We can't access it through this. So we need to create a function. That's probably the right way to do this. So let's just create a function. There's a lot of code in there I can clean up that I'm not using that's commented out. Combat void reset combat. And then here we can just do a client, combat client dot, well, I'm going to have to pass the combat ID, ain't I? Long combat ID, combat client dot reset combat, a new combat by ID request, and we need to pass the combat ID in. All right, so that will reset combat. Go back to my summary controller, dot instance dot reset combat, pass in the combat ID, which do I have in this? Generate combat click. I probably need to add it up here, I guess. I guess so. So let's just do a private long combat ID. When combat is over, we can assign it because that's the only time this comes into play anyways. So combat equals, nope, that's not right. combat ID equals, no, that is right, combat.id. Sorry, that is right. And then down here, we just want to pass that when they click the button. So that will reset combat. Now we need to actually reset the UI because it won't reset on its own. So I almost want to just trigger a refresh of the scene, don't I? Isn't that the right way to do this? Can I do that? Could I do like a load scene? What's scene manager? Dot. So like a reload? Load scene? I mean, what if I just load the scene? We might need to make sure we set the combat ID because that's what I pass in. It should already be set though. So in the, what script is it even? Is it the combat manager script? Somewhere I set player prefs. Oh no, it's on the start scene over to the other scene. I don't think I need to set that. I think it's already going to be set. Is what I'm saying. I should just be able to reload the scene at this point. Once the data has been reset here, the scene manager will load and then it will reload the data based on that resetted data. I think we'll try that. That way we don't have to do like a delete script. This will just reload the scene, which will delete everything and start over. I think that's the cleanest way to do that. That might work. Now we have to assign this to the button. That's not assigned yet. So over here in the button, there's an object down here for button. We're gonna assign, where did I put that? I didn't even put it on here yet. I need to put it here. So it's the combat summary controller. I don't know what it's called. I don't see it. It's called combat summary controller. Why are we getting red squiggly lines in this class? Oh, yeah, we need to take that back out. Remove that code. Combat summary controller. Maybe now it'll show up. I don't think it was able to compile, and so it wasn't seeing all the scripts. All right, now can we see the new script? Add over here, combat summary controller. We need to reference both the panel and the text here. So grabbing the panel and put that there. And the text is the combat outcome, put that there. So now we have our references. It should turn this off when combat starts. And actually, since we have references in there, we can turn it off now, and I think it will still work that way. Just so it's not hiding everything behind here on the scene view. I'm just thinking, trying to make sure I have everything that I think we need. Now we're going to have to reset the database one last time, I think. Since when it actually starts. Oops, that didn't mean to change the player ID. That needs to stay as 1. Hopefully that's the last time we have to manually update the database if we did this right. Server's still running? No, the server's not running. That's right, because we made changes to the server. All right, let's start it up and see if the new service call on the server works and that it also looks right on the UI side. I'm sure I missed something. We made a lot of updates there to make this happen. But we'll step through them. We'll step through the issues and fix them. All right, the server is running. Let's just push play. Now this should default on this first run through here. Like I said, since we just reset it, it's going to show the previous combat's data initially on this screen. So we can see where it ended at the end of the last scene. But as soon as I click play, all the HPs for the enemies should go to full. The heroes are technically going to full, but I haven't fixed the update method on the HP bars, so they still look like they're dead until they get attacked once. It's a little bug that I really don't have to fix once we get past this point. And then they're going to keep attacking and killing. And then once everything dies, it should trigger that on completed combat summary panel that we just created. If we did everything right. Like I said, not 100% confident yet that we're close. I'm sure there's a few bugs. All right, getting close. Uh-oh, he's killing a lot of guys. We almost lost our full front row. All right. The heroes are always showing up in front of the UI, so we're going to have to figure out how to fix that. But the screen did appear, and it did properly show that the player won. Now let's click Generate New Combat and see what happens. There's no errors yet, at least not on the UI side. Let's double check the server. No errors on the server. Generate New Combat. I don't know if anything happened there. Doesn't look like it. Nothing is happening. All right, let's double check the code that triggers when we click the button. Plus, I don't like that. I don't know what I got going on there with the colors, but I don't like that either. But Combat Manager. And we'll go down here. When are you guys wanting to go, honey? Pretty soon. Okay, I won't be too much longer. Almost 5:15, not quite. All right, and if I scroll down, oh, this is the wrong one. It's on this one. Generate combat click. Did I forget to set that up after I said we needed to set that up, or did I set it up? Let's stop this. Maybe I didn't set that up. Button. Oh, I didn't set it up. Combat Manager is where that script's at. And then we find the script that we attached. Summary controller. Generate combat click. And then the colors must be tied to all this crap going on down here. Maybe it'll fix it though now that we actually assign something. I'm not sure. We'll find out. So let's reset that again. Yeah, we weren't done yet. Reset it this way. Set it manually. One more time. I hope. Just one more time. All right. Push play. Well, I pushed Unity play. And it reloads. It's still reloading with the old stats in there. I'm hoping once we do the regenerate, it kind of fixes that, but we'll see. Let's push play. And the enemies and the enemies and the heroes should start attacking each other, and they are. You can see how their HP bars adjust after they get attacked once. The only time I have it updating the HP bars is when they get hit. I don't have it updating anywhere else, and that's why they looked funky when the combat first started. I don't think that'll be an issue once I generate all of this data at the beginning of combat normally. But on this test data, it's still causing issues. All right, we almost have that last enemy dead. He didn't kill a single guy yet. All right, everybody lived. Player is 1. Let's click Generate Combat. And the heroes all reset correctly. Oh, the enemies did too. All right, cool. That's what we wanted. Now can we click play and will it still work again? It will. It looks like it is anyways. Oh, that's awesome. That is perfect. Now I haven't made the enemies hard enough where I've ever seen the other scenario. Maybe I should. After combat's over, but before I click the button, maybe I'll change the enemies and make them much harder so they can actually beat these heroes. And we'll do one extra test that way to make sure that the lose screen works as we're expecting. Uh-oh. 2 are dead. Could try Evil Fairy, even though you look like a wolf. I'm going to take a note that I need to fix the bug with the heroes appearing in front. Fix heroes appearing in front of summary panel. Okay. Now before I click Generate Combat, I should just be able to go into the database and update those monsters. I just want to make them stronger. Hit harder so that they actually win. We'll make them attack faster too. The fairy right now takes 8 seconds. Let's make it take 5. He's going to do insane amounts of damage now. And make everyone else take a little bit less time. This guy will go really fast. And then just to make sure they win, let's give them all a little bit more HP. Where's HP at? Right here. Not current HP though, base HP. Let's give the fairy 50. The wolf 35. This wolf can have 30. The large rat can have 20. That should be enough, I think, that the monster should win. And I saved that in the database. So now we should be able to just click Generate New Combat and it should refresh with those new values. Yeah, see? We got 50 HP now and the higher numbers. Now let's see how you guys fare against these tough monsters. Get your butts kicked now, I hope. I should have increased their defense too, because they're still taking a lot of damage fast. Compared to the heroes. The heroes have pretty high defense, so they're not taking quite as much damage. Uh-oh, the heroes are going to win again. Maybe not. I think the heroes are still going to win. Got 2 of them. Can this guy finish all 3 of the back row by himself? He probably can. I don't know. That's a lot of hit points to go through. I should have made him slightly harder because now this is going to take 2 minutes just to finish combat, even if he does win. I got 4 of them. He's going to win. It's just taking a while. One left. You got one last chance, Merlin. He's not going to win. He's close, though. Player has lost. All right, cool. So it's working both ways. All right, those are the main things I wanted to finish today. Grandkids are getting ready to go trick-or-treating, so but I did mark this does mark off what I'm going to consider the first pass. I mean, except for a few little bugs here I'll probably fix on the side. But I am going to go ahead and say that we get to mark off these 2-line items here. So we've been stuck on this combat scene one for a while, so it feels good. We are going to mark this one complete. I mean, minus, like I said, minus a few bug fixes. So the next time I stream, which should be probably once this weekend at some point, we're going to start working on items. So we'll create this base item class, and then we'll have a generated item as well. So there'll be a base item database table, and then there'll be a generated item database table to store the like unique items per game or whatever. So that will be fun to start working on something new and kind of start fleshing out the characters a little bit with some additional building opportunities. So, all right, guys, thank you for watching. It wasn't a long stream today, but we did finish up the combat scene at least to a point where we have everything working, even though it's not built out and balanced or anything yet. We have all the combat flow now working in combat. And now we're going to start adding equipment, and then eventually we're going to add some more generation of monsters and some skills, and then we'll really be able to start interacting with the game and doing stuff to affect the outcome. So it's been fun, and I'll see you guys next time. Talk to you later.